Okay, so I've tried to do like an intro to this 3 times. I've not managed it. Listen, I'm largely aiming this at Hannah, but this might be useful for other folks as well. All right, mate. So, um, perspective is one of those things that's like really easy when you know how, but it looks like witchcraft otherwise. So it's really useful for impressing people that don't know better. No offense, sorry. Um, right. Okay. So I'm going to try and explain this as best I can, but I'm not very good at explaining, and I'm also not very good at doing things off the cuff. So let's see how this goes. Let's start off with 1 point perspective. I'm writing that there in case you couldn't hear me. I'm good at this. I'm good at this. Anyway, right. Okay, so 1 point perspective. Basically, it's called 1 point perspective because you have one vanishing point. A vanishing point is the point that all the lines come from. You think of it basically like your like it's difficult to explain. It's basically like where all of the lines in the drawing are heading towards. It's a lot easier to show than it is to explain. So if you have a 1 point perspective, this is also really easy using the ruler tool in Manga Studio. This is why I really like Manga Studio for making comics. So what you have there is if you're drawing a cube, I'm sure you would draw it like this. But that's kind of devoid of perspective. That exists in kind of a vacuum. So what you want to be doing instead is you want to be doing this, um, which is drawing two straight lines out there. And what you have there is you have two sides of the cube. See that wee pause there? That was very professional. I'm proud of that. Um, and the easy thing about 1 point perspective is that you have these two lines coming out from here, these two lines coming out like this, and then everything else is at right angles. This is why it's my favorite perspective because you don't really need to do very much thinking. So if you're drawing the rest of the cube, or the cuboid, let's say, it's gone off the page a bit. I'm sure you understand. Um, you draw it like that. Now, if we were drawing the back of the cuboid as well, let's do it in a different color. Let's do it in green. Um, Now, what you would also do is you would all like it's kind of this weird logic puzzle of matching things up. So you have that blue thing there, and let's say you wanted to draw the back of the cube in as well. What you would kind of want to do is you would want to kind of like take it from this corner here out across like that, and then like that. So I've just drawn a square, and then you want the next lines to meet this different perspective. So that comes out like that, and if the rest of the cube was complete, you would see that it actually all joins up like this. This is why I should have done the cube first. And that is a cuboid all coming from the same place. So what happens is then I'm drawing it in the back, which is going a very different colour. So that's the bit that you can't actually see. And then let's delete all these rulers. And lo and behold, there you have a like a perspective. A perspective. That's a word definitely. You have a perspectived cuboid. So 1 point perspective is kind of the easiest one to go with. And the rest of it is just kind of extrapolating from there, but the only difference is that the other types of perspective, shut up car outside. For 1 point perspective, what you want to do is you want to have like right angles for a lot of the different you want to have right angles for all of the bits that aren't coming from the vanishing point. So what you want with 2 point perspective is kind of the same thing, but you want it with two of the lines now coming from the vanishing points. It's called 2 point perspective because, so what you have is you have what's known as a horizon line. That's where the horizon is, and you have things coming out at you instead. So if we are drawing a cube like this, let's say that this is vanishing. Let's say that that's your horizon line there, and this is vanishing point A, and this is vanishing point B. This is 2 point perspective. I don't need to do this title every time, but I've done it for the first one, and I feel like I ought to maintain it for tradition's sake. So what you have is you have a line coming out like that. Let's say you want a cube over here at the left. So you have a line coming out like that, and then you have another line coming out like that, and then what you have is you have a line coming out like that, and then to get this third line, what you would do is you would draw a straight line down there because you have two of the edges of the cube are defined by the vanishing points, but the one that you cannot determine by the vanishing point is just a vertical line. So there you go, that's how, and the rest is, you should be able to work it out from there. And then that gets joined up to there, and then this gets joined up to here. There you go, that's another cube. And if you wanted a cube somewhere on the right, you would just do the same thing again. There are methods. Well, you can also do that. You can also do that and then elevate it. Give me a second. I'm going to delete these rulers and try that again. You can also draw a cube on the floor, or a cuboid. Sorry. Oh, aren't we specific today? You can also draw a cuboid on the floor. And keep in mind, and that, I was about to draw a straight line there. That's not a straight line. This needs to go back to the vanishing point. Because it's those kind of lines that are determined like that. That's pretty wonky looking. But I think that's right. So, yeah, that's basically how you do 2-point perspective. Nice and easy. 3-point perspective. Now, this is the point where I'm going to mess something up, because this is the point where it gets tricky. For me is right. So what you have is you now have, as the name suggests, 3 vanishing points. So what you have is you have all 3 of your lines defined for you. So let's say the cube's let's say you're looking down on a tall building. This is a skyscraper, and you're there's a skyscraper and you're looking down in it, and there's all the office buildings and stuff like that. So that's kind of the perspective we're going for. You will rarely need to use 3-point perspective. I've very, very rarely found it useful. But basically, it is the same principle again. It is just now you have all 3 lines kind of defined for you. So, yep, that's it. I was about to go up above the horizon line. I'll explain the horizon line in a second a wee bit better. So there you go. There's the top of the skyscraper, and there's the bottom of the skyscraper, and it would still come up to the vanishing point like that. So there you go. I'm going to do that in a different color, and I'll kind of show you how this is useful in a second. So that's basically that, and then we can have Spider-Man swinging around above it or whatever. You understand that's not Spider-Man. That's just a guy he's been thrown out of a plane. He's dead. But yeah, no. So that's the basic principles of it. A couple of things. Yeah, the other thing I wanted to explain is horizon line. That's a great fucking horizon line there, Shamey. Well done. Horizon line. Vanishing point. If things are below the horizon line, you're looking down on them. If things are above the horizon line, you are if things are above the horizon line, you are instead looking up at them. Like that. So you cannot see this back edge, so it would be kind of like this. Let's just do that there. So you wouldn't be able to see those back edges because that is above the horizon line. Now, when I'm drawing buildings, it is literally just a case of doing that and then kind of trying to find the halfway point, bringing that up, and then adding a triangle to the 2 edges and then thingy. I don't know why you'd be looking up this building. Maybe it's got a bunch of stairs coming down. But the thing is that's a good example. As these stairs are coming down, they start going below the horizon line, so that starts coming out like that. So everything goes back to that vanishing point pretty much. So these stairs, I would do it like this, and this would get really confusing. Basically, the way I do perspective is just to do a lot of cuboids. Just a lot of cuboids. But see, as the stairs get further above, they start going down, so you won't be able to see the top of them. So that's kind of what this perspective is. And that's kind of how it's useful. Hopefully this last bit didn't get too confusing. Hopefully you can kind of see what I mean. Basically, like as the stairs come down, you can see the top of them. And that's what the horizon line's there to dictate, whether or not you can see the top or the bottom of objects. So that's what the horizon line is there to do. The vanishing point is where one of your lines is coming from. So if you have 3, that's where all 3 of the lines are coming from. You'll never need to go more complex than 3, I don't think, unless you're doing some fucking Jack Kirby shit. The last thing that I want to say is there is a method for, and I've forgotten it, I've actually forgotten this method, for getting like a circle in perspective. It's like you draw a cube, and you actually have to measure out the cube, which I'm not doing, which is bad practice. And then you have to kind of do something like this, and then draw the circle, or the oval in this case, draw the circle in like that. That's a slice of pizza. And then you need to take measurements, and then you need to take the measurements and put them along like that, if I'm remembering rightly. It's been a while since I did this formally. Honestly, and this is something that works for me, it maybe won't work for other people, is you can generally tell when something is right. So if you're sitting there like, if you're sitting there and you're like, oh, it's going to take me half an hour to figure out the perspective in this thing, for circles and stuff, sometimes it's all right to just wing it. But take that with a huge pinch of salt. Figure out for yourself like how comfortable you are with doing that, and make sure it looks right. That's the main thing. But yeah, that's the end to my brief guide on perspective. It wasn't. There's nothing there. There's nothing there, Shimmy. You deleted it, you numpty. Yeah, hopefully that wasn't too muddled or confusing. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. And hope that's helpful. Thanks.